even believe the absolute roller coaster we have been put on this week? Just when we thought the nightmare of the tornado was behind us, the writers of Beyond the Gates have thrown us into an entirely new emotional hurricane. We need to talk about the devastating, gut-wrenching turn of events surrounding Catherine Cat Richardson and her half-sister Eva Thomas. The irony of this entire situation is so thick you could cut it with a scalpel. We all watched in agonizing suspense as Kat was wheeled into that operating room to donate a piece of her liver to Eva. Dr. Arnold came out, the surgery was declared a success, and the entire family let out a massive sigh of relief. But in the world of daytime soaps, a moment of peace is usually just the calm before an absolute storm. And what a storm it is. Out of nowhere, the monitors in Kat's recovery room start blaring. Doctors and nurses frantically rush in, pushing a terrified Ted and Nicole out of the way as Kat's heart rate spikes dangerously out of control. Let's be real for a second. My heart was in my throat during this entire sequence. The medical team works feverishly to stabilize her, but the grim reality sets in when Dr. Arnold delivers the crushing news to Nicole and Ted. Kat has suffered a severe, life-threatening complication. She is slipping away, and the doctors have absolutely no idea when or even if she is going to wake up. They explicitly state that it is entirely up to Kat now. Her body has been pushed to the absolute brink, and her spirit is hovering somewhere between life and death. This brings us to the sheer, unadulterated despair of Nicole Dupree. You guys, Daphne Duplay is acting her absolute heart out in these scenes. Nicole is completely shattered, and who could blame her? Just 24 hours ago, her daughter was perfectly healthy, walking around the hospital, drinking coffee with Tomas, and completely whole. Now, overnight, Kat is lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to a ventilator, fighting for her very existence. Nicole's descent into absolute despair is palpable. As a mother, watching your child suffer is the ultimate nightmare, but the layers of psychological torture here are so incredibly deep. Nicole was the one who gently pushed Kat to at least take the donor test so she would have the power of choice. The guilt eating away at Nicole right now must be completely suffocating. But here is the kicker, and this is where the family dynamic is going to absolutely explode. Ted is standing right there, trying to comfort a sobbing Nicole, wrapping his arms around her and telling her that Kat is strong and will pull through. But will Nicole accept this comfort, or will she turn her grief into pure, unadulterated fury directed right at him? I firmly believe that Nicole is going to blame Ted for this entire tragedy. Let's not forget history here. Ted is the one who cornered Kat in the stairwell. Ted is the one who looked into his terrified daughter's eyes and begged her to go under the knife to save his other daughter, Eva, the daughter he shares with Leslie Thomas. Nicole is going to look at Ted and see the man who sacrificed their perfectly healthy child to save the child of his former mistress. That resentment is going to be a toxic poison that could completely destroy whatever lingering bond Nicole and Ted have left. And honestly, I am completely on Nicole's side with this one. Ted's guilt should be absolutely astronomical right now. He practically guilt-tripped Kat into making this sacrifice, completely disregarding the very real medical risks associated with a major organ donation. Ted wanted to play the hero dad, who saves both his girls, but in doing so, he played Russian roulette with Kat's life. Now, he has to stand in that sterile, cold ICU room, listening to the rhythmic, haunting hiss of the ventilator breathing for his little girl. The psychological trauma Ted is facing is immense, but it is entirely a bed of his own making. He pushed Kat into that operating room, and now he has to live with the terrifying possibility that he might have sent her to her grave. This brings me to the absolute hypocrites of the Richardson, Smith, and Hawthorne families. I am talking about Martin, Isaiah, and Leslie. We need to take a massive trip down memory lane and look at how horrifically these people treated Kat leading up to this surgery. Do you remember when Martin arrogantly cornered his sister, calling her Princess Kat and demanding she do the right thing? He completely invalidated her fears. He acted like donating a liver was as simple as giving someone a cup of sugar. And what about Isaiah? He had the absolute audacity to call Kat Miss Righteous and accuse her of lacking basic human compassion, all because she hesitated to literally be gutted on an operating table for a woman who slept with her boyfriend and was involved in murder attempts. The absolute nerve of these men. Kat was not just being petty. She wasn't just holding a grudge. She was genuinely, deeply terrified of the medical risks. She literally looked at her family and said she was scared of what might happen to her body. She feared she might not survive the surgery. And what did they do? They rolled their eyes. They judged her. They selfishly pushed her into a corner until she felt like she had absolutely no choice but to sacrifice herself to prove her worth to them. And now, Kat's worst, darkest fears have manifested into a terrifying reality. She is the one paying the ultimate price for their selfish demands. The tragic irony of this situation is almost too much to bear. It is a complete, devastating role reversal. Eva, who was literally at death's door, bleeding internally and fading fast, is now waking up. She is opening her eyes, looking around the room, and getting a miraculous second chance at life. Meanwhile, Kat, the healthy, vibrant young woman who selflessly gave up a piece of her own body, is now trapped in a coma, taking Eva's place on the precipice of death. It is as if Kat literally traded her life force to save Eva. The universe demanded a soul, and Kat offered hers up so Eva could stay. Leslie Thomas better be on her hands and knees thanking the heavens, and more importantly, thanking the Dupree family. To her credit, Leslie has shown a much more vulnerable side lately. We are seeing spoilers that she is going to extend her immense gratitude to the family and vow to change her ways. But words are cheap in Fairmont Crest. Leslie needs to realize that her daughter is only breathing right now because Kat Richardson walked into the fire for her. If Kat doesn't make it, Leslie and Eva are going to have to carry the weight of that sacrifice for the rest of their natural lives. Every time Eva takes a breath, it will be because Kat gave up her own. This horrific reality check is going to hit Martin, Isaiah, and Leslie like a ton of bricks. They are going to be forced to look at Kat's lifeless body and realize how incredibly cruel they were to her. They dismissed her anxiety as selfishness. They treated her like a spare parts factory rather than a human being with a life, a future, and valid fears. I am telling you right now, they owe Kat the most massive, groveling, sincere apologies in the history of daytime television. They need to sit by her bedside, hold her cold hand, and beg for her forgiveness for pushing her into this nightmare. But let's pivot to the future, because I have a massive theory about where the writers are taking this storyline, and I know you guys are going to love this. I do not believe for a single second that Kat is going to die. Beyond the Gates is not going to kill off a legacy character like Kat Richardson in this manner. Instead, I firmly believe that Kat is going to experience a profound, life-altering, out-of-body experience or a near-death experience while she is in this coma. The spoilers have already teased that Kat will have a strange experience, and this perfectly aligns with the classic soap opera supernatural trope. Picture this. Kat's physical body is lying there completely unresponsive, but her spirit, her consciousness, separates from her physical form. The writers are going to take her on an ethereal journey where she is floating above her own hospital bed. She is going to look down and see the absolute devastation she has left behind. She will see her mother, Nicole, completely breaking down, sobbing uncontrollably into Kiao's or Ted's arms, begging the universe not to take her baby girl. Kat will witness the raw, unfiltered agony of her parents as they face the very real prospect of burying their child. This out-of-body perspective is going to be incredibly crucial for Kat's character development. For the longest time, Kat has felt alienated, misunderstood, and pressured by her family. She felt like no one truly saw her or cared about her feelings. But in this spiritual state, watching her family shatter into a million pieces over her potential death, Kat is going to realize just how deeply and fiercely she is loved. She is going to see Ted, a broken shell of a man, weeping over his mistakes. She will see Martin pacing the halls, consumed by guilt. She will see the true depth of their love, stripped of all the family politics and past resentments. More importantly, Kat is going to finally understand what it feels like to be the helpless loved one standing in the waiting room. When Eva was dying, Kat didn't fully grasp the desperation that Ted, Leslie, and Isaiah were feeling. She saw it as them choosing Eva over her. But by watching Nicole and Ted agonize over her own lifeless body, Kat will suddenly empathize with the sheer terror of being unable to save the person you love most. She will realize that their desperation to save Eva wasn't necessarily a rejection of Kat, but a primal, frantic need to stop a death in the family. It is this profound emotional realization, this deep empathetic connection that is going to pull Kat's spirit back into her physical body. The overwhelming love she witnesses from Nicole and the desperate grief from her family will act as a tether, dragging her soul back from the light. After days of agonizing suspense, after the family has completely given up hope and said their tearful goodbyes, Kat's fingers are going to twitch. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor is going to steady, and her eyes will finally flutter open. She won't just wake up as the same Kat. She will wake up as a transformed woman, armed with a new understanding of love, sacrifice, and forgiveness. This storyline is an absolute masterclass in emotional storytelling. The writers are giving us everything we want. High-stakes medical drama, intense family conflict, bitter hypocrisy, and the potential for a beautiful spiritual redemption arc. I cannot wait to see how Daphne Duplay, Keith D. Robinson, and Colby Natasha Nixon play out these incredibly heavy scenes. Make sure you have your tissues ready because the tears are going to be flowing in Fairmont Crest all week long. Let me know down in the comments, do you think Nicole is going to absolutely destroy Ted for pushing Kat into this? And do you think Martin and Isaiah deserve to be forgiven for how they treated her? Drop your thoughts below, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video.